Hello, my name is Jessica Gilbert, and I am a PhD candidate at the University at Buffalo. Thank you for your interest in my poster entitled Understanding the Role of Values-Based Institutional Food Procurement in Overcoming Barriers Experienced by Black Farmers. This research is part of my broader dissertation research, which focuses on social movements advocating for food and racial justice. Since emancipation, Black farmers have experienced widespread oppression and discrimination, which has resulted in disproportionately fewer Black farmers than whites. These barriers faced by Black farmers continue to perpetuate these disparities, and they include lack of access to land, capital, markets, and other resources. Overcoming these barriers and supporting existing and new Black farmers is therefore critical to bolstering regional food systems. As such, there are many social movements that are seeking to integrate Black farmers into institutional supply chains through various values-based procurement programs such as the Good Food Purchasing Program and Farm to School as a pathway for overcoming barriers that they face. However, institutions are constrained by tight budgets, a need for large food quantities, and national, state, and local procurement laws. Therefore, the central question that I am digging into in this research is how might values-based public institutional food procurement programs, such as the Good Food Purchasing Program, be leveraged to support Black farmers in New York? This research is grounded in a qualitative analysis of 25 interviews with Black farmers, food justice activists, institutional partners, and others throughout the food supply chain. From this qualitative analysis, I have developed causal maps, and I am now working to gather feedback on these causal maps from community partners and to build towards a stock flow diagram in a simulation model. Let's look first at the reference mode that I'm using. Food sold by farmers is currently disproportionately produced by white farmers, both because of the very low number of Black farmers in New York and because Black farmers tend to have smaller farming operations than white farmers. Therefore, the goal is for food sold by Black farmers to be proportionate to the size of the Black population in New York, which is 16%. This reference mode is an S-shaped curve because it recognizes that there is an interest among Black farmers to grow their production capacity, as well as an interest in the broader Black population in New York to enter into farming if it is a viable market opportunity. However, it also recognizes that not all Black folks want to be farmers, that some Black farmers will not want to expand their farming operations, and that there are limits to the amount of land, capital, and other resources available for increasing farming production, which was why this levels off as an S-curve. Looking at causal map number 1, we see that there are 9 feedback loops here total. 7 of them are reinforcing and 2 are balancing. This causal map suggests that cumulative discrimination and a lack of access to resources are key barriers faced by Black farmers. First, looking at access to capital, here, we see that this variable touches each reinforcing feedback loop, indicating that it has a very large impact on farming production and access to other resources. And therefore, efforts to address barriers faced by Black farmers must center increasing access to capital. However, past and present discrimination here impacts directly access to capital, which means that that discrimination needs to be reduced in order to increase access to capital. Turning down to causal map number 2 of institutional procurement, we see again that there are 9 feedback loops here total, 7 reinforcing and 2 balancing. And this causal map indicates that government regulations are a critical leverage point to increasing institutional food procurement from New York farmers. Specifically, government regulations impacts every feedback loop within this causal map. But currently, these government regulations constrain institutional procurement from New York farmers. Therefore, regulations need to be changed if institutional procurement is to support New York farmers. It's also very important to note that this causal map is of New York State farmers broadly, not New York Black farmers specifically. And this is because institutions do not currently procure from Black farmers, and so there is a gap here that Black farmers cannot currently be included in such a causal map because they are not being procured from. Thus, increasing procurement from New York farmers does not inherently lead to increased procurement from New York Black farmers, meaning that there is a gap that needs to be addressed before we can say that procurement supports Black farmers. Turning now to the stock flow diagram, which is a work in progress, we see that I'm currently building out the causal map number 1 of Black farmers. I'm currently working to capture resource gaps that Black farmers face and how a lack of access to resources constrains both their production capacity and the overall number of Black folks who are interested in and decide to start farming. As I work to operationalize this diagram, there are a lot of questions that are arising, and many of these stem from where to simplify, where additional complexity is needed, and where various components of the diagram need to be better integrated. Specifically, I am working to answer how to build in equilibrium for Black farmers in these Black farmer stocks at the bottom, how to integrate discrimination, whether this is through creating its own variable or by leveraging the values of existing variables within the diagram, how to represent resources, if these should be grouped together or broken apart into different types of resources such as land or capital, and how to better integrate interest in farming to reflect its influence on the number of Black farmers in the overall system. I have many next steps for this simulation model, namely turning it into a simulation model. And I will be pulling scenarios from the Black Farmers United, which is an advocacy group made up of Black farmers and food justice advocates in New York, their list of 9 solutions for overcoming barriers faced by Black farmers. And so the variables that I'm pulling from these 9 solutions to test are access to capital, permanent access to land, Black leadership, access to free knowledge, and changed government regulations. The other next step is to develop the institutional procurement causal map, or causal map 2, into this stock flow diagram as well. I have many questions for broader analysis, mostly how to bridge the gap between increasing procurement from New York farmers to increasing procurement from Black farmers, how the number of Black farmers might be increased, and if institutional procurement does not currently support Black farmers, what is needed to reach a point where it will. That's it. Thank you so much for your interest in this research. I welcome any and all feedback that you may have as I continue to work on this, and please reach out to me at jlgilber@buffalo.edu.